Okay, this will be a response to shlockofgod, and his response to my response to his rebuttal of Benatar's asymmetry. Yeah, you're talking about I'm not understanding the usage of good when you're talking about agency. I'm doing a value judgment, but I don't know how you can separate the two, because you're talking about agency. Even in one of your scenarios, you got person A exists, so has the ability to act and choose, right? I mean, agency, as you're using it, is the ability to act. So to say that just agency is good will depend on the actions done. I really don't see how you can separate agency from the action of the agent. So I mean, I'm going to address it the way you're addressing it later on. But well, and also I wanted to say, I mean, when you're talking about agency, I mean the thing responsible for agency is our brains, right? You would agree that, I mean, obviously I'm a determinist. Everything we do, I mean, our thoughts arise in our brain. We really don't have control over what we do. We're kind of along for the ride. So, I mean, you know, the agent that does bad things, you can't really say, well, that person, that Bill or Bob or Joe is bad. You can just say his brain isn't working right. Anyhow.
The absence of harm is not good, because harm has been used to do good things. You know, we harm.
Well, see right there, you're using a form of agency, right? We're using harm to do something, right? That requires agency. So you're talking about agency now, not just harm. Just because agents can use harm for good. I mean, the only reason we use harm for good is because some agents are doing something bad. So you're already getting into agency here. You're not. I mean, Benatar is talking about harm. An agent can be in a state of suffering or in a state of pleasure. That's just, those are states that you're in. The agency is a state of being able to act, do things, right? That's why I say I don't see how you can separate the two.
People to stop the Holocaust. You know, the absence of harm of a rapist is not good, especially if it helps stop the rape.
Well, that's the thing. Again, you're talking about agency. I mean, the only reason we're using harm to stop the rapist, because the rapist, the agent, was doing something bad in the first place. So you're talking about usage, you know, action. I mean, the initial harm is why we're doing harm to the rapist. So
the absence of the harm of chemotherapy might not be good.
Well, again, the first harm was the cancer. The harm came along, and we had to put the cancer victim through, you know, some sort of suffering in order to get rid of the cancer. It was an action we did.
In the same way, I'm saying the absence of agency is bad for the person or the potential person concerned.
Okay, for the person or the potential person concerned. So, I mean, and you said this later on, so I'm going to introduce this now. I think you need 4 cells for your symmetry, which I had missed before. Yeah, you're arguing a symmetry, not an asymmetry. So, but you know. Well, the 4 cells would be, you know, you got in the existent, you're going to have 2 cells. Absence of agency is bad for the existent person, and the presence of agency is good for the existent person. Now you need to go. Then you've got 2 cells in the non-existent column. If the absence of agency is bad for the existent, then the absence of agency would be good for the non-existent. If presence of agency is good for the existence, I would say the absence of agency is not bad for the non-existent. It's the exact same thing as Benatar's. So, I mean, you're saying that the absence of agency is bad, since the presence of agency is good. But I'm arguing that for the non-existent, it's the same. I think later on you also say that you're contrasting the presence of agency with the presence of pleasure, right? So the presence of agency for the existent is good, but the absence of agency is not bad. Because in order for it to be bad, you have to be existent. So, right? So the non-existent don't care because they're not there. So the absence of agency is not bad. Anyhow.
What you're doing to my asymmetry of agency is the same thing that people did to Benatar's asymmetry when they like strawman the hell out of it. You know.
Well, as far as Benatar's, I mean, I don't know if I can't think of strawmanning it. I know that they seem to misunderstand it. They seem to think that well, the one that comes to mind is people always say you can't impose on the non-existent, which is right. You can't impose. You can't do anything to the non-existent. You can't harm them. You can't give them pleasure. You can't impose on them. That's the one I encounter more often than not. I'm not sure about the straw man. Anyhow.
I'm sure that was a pain in the ass for you guys. So anyway.
Well, again, I'm a newbie to this, so maybe I've seen it. I just can't remember it.
So next you respond to part of my premise, and that part is that if that bad is not experienced by anyone, and you say, okay, if a bad thing is not experienced, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I think I've changed that to not good. I mean, not bad instead of good. You know, that was one thing I missed. You are arguing a symmetry, but you're using agency against pain, which yeah, you can't. Yeah, you need 4 cells in your symmetry, which I think turns out to be the exact same thing. Because you are saying that the absence of agency for an existent being is bad. So you got 2 states of agency for the existent, and it turns out to be the same. So yeah, when I said the absence of agency is good, it's kind of like in a general sense. Because again, I don't see how you can separate agency from the actions of that agency. You know, so in general, it'd be better not to have agency than to have agency. That's what I was trying to say with that. But yeah, anyhow. Okay, so you want me to go to, so I skipped down and I missed why the absence of agency is bad. So, I know you also said I should go to the stolen wallet and the murder example. So, well, I mean, yeah, I guess I've already stated that yeah, there's 2 states of, there's 2 cells for existent. Absence of agency is bad. Presence of agency is good. So I've already altered my counter-argument. So
bad because harm can be used to do great goods. The presence of benefit is good. And the presence of benefit is not always good, because the presence of benefit of Hitler is not good. So that's wrong. And 3.
Well, again, the presence of pleasure for someone like Hitler maybe it would have been good. Maybe he didn't get enough pleasure in his life, right? So, I mean, yeah.
The absence of harm is good, even if that good is not enjoyed by anyone. Although the absence of harm is not always good, so that must be wrong, you know, for the absence. You get the point, right?
Well, no, I don't get the point because, like I say, I mean, you know, there's an agent can be in a state of pleasure or a state of harm. Doesn't matter who it is. Just because Hitler was, you know, turned out to be a bad guy, you can't really say Hitler was bad. You can say his brain malfunctioned. His brain got warped, probably from lack of pleasure. Right? I mean, if his life was pleasurable, he wouldn't have been such a dickhead.
Good? Well, no, I didn't say that. Any more than Benatar said that so long as something is absent, it's good. When he said the absence of harm is good.
But he's not saying harm is bad simply because it's present. I mean, that's you stated that. You made that statement. The good of agency consists in either positive or negative sensations / emotions, but simply in the fact of its presence. Benatar never says that. It's a different statement.
That's probably a good definition for what you're doing here. Well, you don't actually say why, but I mean, Benatar uses presence.
Yeah, but he doesn't say something is good or bad simply because it's presence. He says harm is good. I mean, harm is bad. I mean, that's basically making a value judgment, I guess. He's not saying the presence of harm is bad simply because it's present. He's saying harm is bad. He's making a statement. I mean, I guess, I mean, maybe you should reword that. Because, yeah, you're just when you, that one sentence, simply in the fact of its presence. That's why I said, that's why I gave that definition of the supernatural, because you're just asserting that in that sentence, right? Merely by, I mean, you should reword that sentence, because you're just, it's like people say God is good. Well, why is God good? Well, because I say so. Well, the Bible says so. You know, you don't have any justification for saying God is good. I mean, I can see what you're saying now, but I really think you should reword that sentence. Anyhow.
So, what's your point? You know, see your point?
I guess that's my point. You should reword the sentence.
The presence of agency, bad. We'll start with that one. And so, if it's bad, then we'd have to say that a person's ability to act and choose is a negative state relative to the absence of that ability. Right? I mean,
well, yeah, again, you're talking about you're in the existent column here. Yeah, for an existent being, just, you know, not talking about what the agent does. The presence of agency is good, irrelevant of what the agent does, and the absence of agency is bad. That goes in the existent column.
We'd have to say that everyone would be in a better state if, for whatever reason, they did not have the ability to act and choose.
Well, see, yeah, before we just had the two cells. So if we're just considering the existent and the non-existent, it'd be better if agency didn't exist. So yeah, again, I've updated my counter argument.
Right, if the presence of agency is bad, that would have to be the case, right? But I mean, I think that's not the case. The presence of agency is not a negative state. You know, it's not bad. I mean, look, I think it's like obvious that the idea of having the ability to act and choose is worse than not having it is kind of ridiculous just on the surface.
Well, again,
So
I guess I'll have to introduce determinism again. I mean, it's really, it's not us doing the acting and choosing, it's our brain. I mean, what we do, our brain is doing for us. I mean, you can't have a thought without the brain doing something. The brain does something before you, when you have a thought, it's because your brain did something. It wasn't you doing it, it was your brain doing it. Because you are just a product of your brain. So, I mean, anyhow.
Well, I think you can safely conclude that at the very least...
So, I mean, in a certain sense, I mean, we don't have the ability to choose, our brain does. And it's the, you know, who we are is completely dependent on the circumstances we were put in. So, yeah.
The nature of pleasure is such that it only becomes bad if it's experienced as deprivation. But, as I explained...
Right, same thing with agency. It can only be... right, same thing with agency. It's only bad if it's a state of deprivation, if you're existent. The state of, again, just by going to how you're defining agency, you have to be an existent being to be in a, you know, for the absence of pleasure would be bad for an existent being, but not for a non-existent being. Same thing with agency. The absence of it would be bad for an existent, but not bad for a non-existent.
But, as I explained, the nature of agency is that its absence it's not only bad when experienced as a deprivation, but it's also bad, a negative state, right? Even if not experienced. Right?
Well, see, that's where I disagree. It'd be the same if you're going to contrast it with pleasure. The absence of agency for a non-existent being is not bad, because you have to be existent in order to experience the absence of agency as being bad.
Absence of agency cannot be neutral because that absence is a negative relative to the interests or potential interests of the person.
Well, again, no, not for the existent. Yeah, it's a bad to be absent agency, but for the non-existent, it's just not bad.
Court made an objection that might relate to this in a video I just watched. He says he's not sure that agency having a positive value has got any legs. He thinks...
yeah, I think Conference Report is right that it doesn't have any legs because of, again, I've made using agency made the exact same asymmetry as Benatar. So maybe that's what he was missing or something. I forget what he said in that one. But anyhow.
Incredibly high value to their agency.
Even people that are dickheads, right? I mean, yeah, again, I don't think you can separate agency from the agent. I mean, the agent's, if the agent's a dickhead, I mean, he can value his agency all he wants, but I'm not going to value it, you know. Anyhow. Okay, the abstract example of injecting people with something that removes all my suffering, all our suffering, but we cannot ever act and choose in the world again. But yeah, you're just trying to make the point that the absence of agency is bad for the existent being. So again, you need 4 cells in your what is now an asymmetry.
As a result of the removal of your agency, that it's not still a negative state of affairs. You know, I
really don't know. I mean, how can you really say? I mean, if you injected me and I no longer was able to act and choose, I can't. What would that be like? Would I care? I don't know. That's really a weird thing to say. But again, I'll accept that, just for the sake of argument, the absence of agency is bad for an existent being?
Well, if by null and void you mean wrong, then yes, I'm arguing it's wrong. So, any claim that
well, I mean, the Benatar asymmetry points it makes the case that the non-existent column is the preferable state. So, I mean, that's the only conclusion the antinatalists can come to with the Benatar asymmetry. And you just said that what you're saying, makes that conclusion wrong. So anyhow.
Not to be universally good because they do bad things and shit.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, you can't. I have a hard time separating agency from the agent. What the agent does matters. So yeah, in that sense, it doesn't work. But yeah, even with using just how you're using agency, we still have an asymmetry.
Right.
Yeah, so we're pretty much at the end here, and you're talking about that you were arguing for a symmetry, which yeah, I kind of missed that, but it still doesn't change the fact. So if you got a symmetry, it doesn't matter if we choose the existent column or the non-existent column. We can choose either one. So they have equal value or whatever, however you want to put it. So if that's the case, then yeah, if we got a chance, if we can pick any column we want, and we pick the non-existent column, and we're going to say that the absence of agency is bad, well, there's something we can do about that. If we pick it's a symmetry. Pick either side. So, yeah, the absence of agency is bad, and we can remedy that by making more agents. So, I still think that part of my argument holds up, even using your symmetry. But again, what you're really arguing is another asymmetry, where there's 4 cells. I think I've already said this, but say it again. In the existent column, you got absence of agency is bad for the existent being. The presence of agency is good for the existent being. And then in the non-existent column, the absence of agency would be good, because that's in the existent column, absence of agency is bad. So for the existent being, that would correlate with the pain in Benatars. The absence of pain would be good, even if there's no one to experience that good. And then in the existent column, the absence of agency would be not bad, because you need an agent to be deprived of that agency for it to be bad. So yeah, I hope I explained that properly, and thanks for watching.